So, hey everyone, in this episode, we've got Brian Cohen. He's the VP of Marketing at Folian, a marketing leader as well as a marketing consultant. And Folian is a marketing software company with roughly 130 employees. So, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. And just a heads up, everyone, I am at a hotel, so the audio, you might hear some background noise. I will mute myself to reduce that. So apologies in advance. But so Brian, let's get stuck in. Let's put you into the B2B buyers flip-flops. How do you first like to become aware of vendors? How do you first like to hear about them? And who do you hear about them from? Where do you hear about them from? So for example, that could be your peers, through word of mouth, through communities, through content and on social media like LinkedIn, from influencers or ads. And this is, again, awareness, not the learning or education phase, but just how you first come across vendors. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that right, we can take several different directions there. It really depends, like if there's a need, right? If I'm really looking for a solution, then I generally will reach out to peers. There are several Slack groups that I'm in for marketers that I can reach out to and ask for assistance. I think that's super helpful. And also just the stalking there, when you hear folks talking about something and you kind of just file it away in your brain for later, right? Maybe I'll look at that company. But also I love just ads are totally fine, right? I love them. I'm a marketer, so I like to look at them, see what the quality is, and compare. All right. Is there something that maybe I can steal in the way that they're doing things? Right. So I definitely look at that, and I will engage and peruse as someone just looking to learn. So yeah, kind of all over the board as far as learning. Now, when we dive into looking to purchase, right, that's a little bit different.
2 seconds. Okay, I gotta remember to unmute myself. So yeah, so we're about to dive into how you become aware of vendors, rather learn from vendors, but in terms of how you become aware of them, peers, Slack groups, content, ads. So a reoccurring theme, word of mouth, is very important. Now, once you become aware of vendors, how do you then learn about them? Where do you go for information? What type of information are you seeking for you in order to, learn, try, and buy vendors? So, for example, maybe you go to the website and the information on the website could be pricing or product features, or you're able to get a free trial, or you see social proof and use cases. So maybe you can walk us through what you look for.
Yeah. And for me, I'm one of those buyers that definitely loves to do that 80 or 90% of my research on my own. I definitely don't like being cold emailed, and really dislike the cold messages on LinkedIn. I almost feel like you're invading my personal space. So I like to go to the website. I also use G2 and Capterra to look, not necessarily to disqualify someone, but just understand what those pros and cons look like based on their ratings, right? Because someone can have a slightly poor rating, but right, if you look at the cons, those won't necessarily relate to my needs. So I kind of, right, I can write those things off, and then and so I continue to learn on my own, and then I look to when I feel like I'm ready, when I feel like there's a fit, then I like to jump into a buying cycle and kind of get the ball rolling to prove the case from the company side, allow them to sell.
Right on. So you go to the website, and then if and when you need sales help, you'll hit them up. And so on the website, in addition to also G2 review, so on the website, what information do you like to see? Pricing? Do you like to see demo recordings? Do you like to see features and benefits, use cases? Maybe you can talk us through some of the things that really put vendors above and beyond for you that you really like to see and expect to see. And sometimes if it's not there, it's like, that's a real drawback. And if
Yeah,
it was there,
definitely.
that'd be a big advantage for them.
For sure. Like, well, I think, right. And I don't think many of us aren't there yet, right? But I think pricing transparency, and just putting it there, right? I think is super valuable. I would like to know. I'm not necessarily trying to make my buying decision off of price, right? I'm looking for value. I'm looking to make sure there's a fit that you're going to solve, that you can solve my problem. So I'm more looking at solutions, not necessarily the technical aspect, because I have folks on my team that can dig into the weeds and really understand the technical stuff. But from a solution standpoint, can you solve this problem for me? And less about the how you go about that. So pretty simple. So I'm looking at use cases. I'm looking at the solutions pages and really focusing on my time and energy on those to try to absorb what the information you're telling them.
I think it's a good takeaway for marketers, because oftentimes maybe the ultimate decision maker, they're the budget holder as well.
Yep.
And so they want to first be able to quickly get a sense of, is this within the budget and is it worth it? And they'll maybe delegate the research phase and the scoping out to other folks, knowing that, okay, we can probably make this work and it's probably worth it, but we need to check the boxes and let other team members, help with that and get some experience evaluating vendors and thinking about use cases and thinking about ROI, which is eventually what they want to do as a marketing leader. Eventually they want to become the budget holders and be able to sign off on things like that. So I think, no, that's very interesting. So now let's take the negative. How do you not like to be marketed to become aware of vendors for the first time? Like, what causes you to turn off and tune out? And you just mentioned, I think before, a little bit about receiving spam. So maybe you can talk about how you feel on the receiving end of, let's say, telemarketing or email spam, and LinkedIn spam, where someone is sending you a unconsented marketing solicitation to your private inbox, either with a product pitch or a request to speak to sales.
Yeah. Now, right, I think I kind of started about that, right? But I think, right, all of those are super intrusive to me, right? And so I dislike them. There are other folks that that I know that enjoy listening to pitches and will engage, but for me, it's a total turnoff. Now, I will say that with one caveat: if you can really catch me provide value in a cold email, I might respond. But very, very rarely do I. It might be 2 a year, where I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I have a need right now. If it's something where I'm not going to have a need for a year, right, then you're definitely not getting my attention. So yeah, it's like I prefer. Go ahead. Yeah,
you're like hoping to happen to strike gold with someone who's already interested, and your outreach is, so researched and personalized, and it's almost like, but was it really necessary? Because they might have just come in anyways. They know where to speak to sales to find it when they're ready. So exactly. For you, you said it's so rare for you to actually take a demo, or let alone buy. I mean, if you think about the past vendors that you've bought recently, maybe the past handful, how many of them actually started or were influenced by spam from a telemarketing call, an email spam, or LinkedIn spam, versus marketing doing their efforts on you, or marketing's indirect efforts through peers?
Yeah. I can tell you it's been exactly how many have led to a deal, and in the last 5 years, it's been one. So, and the amount of deals that I've done have probably close to 100 wow. Different contracts that I've negotiated over the years, and one got far enough that there was a fit, right place, right time. You caught my attention. And we proceeded. So
wow,
not something that I value from my perspective. Yeah.
Wow. So I think I kind of know your answer from this next question, which is, what would you say is the percentage split preference for getting marketed to by marketing, content, social events, community partnerships, website, the indirect influence on your peers and all that, versus sales development, which does spam, telemarketing, email spam, LinkedIn spam. And so the difference is marketing is basically doing non-spam and sales development's job is basically to spam. So as a buyer, do you have a percentage split preference for how you like to be marketing to?
Yeah, we can call it 99 to 1.
Yep, been hearing a lot of that. But 99%, and maybe in a very, very off chance, that one, and backed up by your actual buying track record. Exactly. So, okay, so now with that, let's talk about your buying preferences for sales and your sales experience. So, to what extent do you need help from sales, and what information do you want from sales that you can't get from marketing or from your peers? So in B2B as a buyer, what help do you need pre-sale as well as post-sales? And maybe different types of products and services can influence that, such as like the product complexity and the need to customize the product, or if the product needs to be rolled out organization-wide, or based on how expensive the product is. But maybe you can just help us understand, as a buyer, what do you need from help pre-sale and post-sale? If at all, pre-sale. Some people, right, they don't need any help pre-sale, but go ahead.
Yeah, for us, it really depends on the product, right? But I would say like where I would need the most help is really understanding the integrations pre and post sale, right? How does this work with what we have existing, right? How do we merge this, and how do we make sure that we're getting the right data to transfer back and forth, making sure that this is a cohesive experience and we're going to get the most value out of it. So I would say the technical aspects are really where I feel we need the most assistance, and that's from their sales team, right? From our sales team. Because we do have interactions with them a lot on what we're purchasing, but again, depends what we're purchasing, and we just want to make sure that there's alignment and understanding on how this tool can support us both, and making sure if they have needs for a tool, how that aligns with what the tool can provide.
Right on. So you're buying tech, right? You're buying software, and so buyers will need help from sales to understand some of the technical information, like integrations, and the transfer of data. And so to the extent that buyers aren't able to get that from marketing on the website, whatever technical documentation or an explanation of integrations, or to get that from their peers, because marketing isn't putting out information about that, or users of the product or customers of the product aren't giving information about that, let's just say it's not readily available, then buyers are going to want to get that from sales. Exactly. Particularly if it's a very, very complex product. So now, what would you say? You mentioned that you're someone who you like to self-educate. You like to go to the website, you like to go to G2, you like to speak to peers who are using the product. Now, what would you say is your percentage split preference for getting information and help from marketing, and self-educating and self-serving from marketing, which also, again, includes the influence and information from your peers, so it's indirect for marketing, right, versus having to speak to sales, or where the information is gated behind sales in order to get it, say like pricing, or to see the product like a demo recording, or to find out like use cases and stuff? Do you have a percentage split preference?
Well, yeah, I think that I prefer to get as much information as I can up front, right? And I have this belief that marketing should be from a marketer, right? We should be providing that 80 to 90% of that sales process, right? We should be completing 80 to 90% of that sales process. You have all the information you need, not just from one buyer persona, right? But from or right from your primary prospect, but say from procurement, right? What is the information that they need? How do we deliver end to end everything so that when it does get to sales, right, all they have to do is talk about pricing and dial that in if you can't get it already, and then sign the contract and let's go. That's the process that I would like to see and I prefer.
Right on. And so, 85% or so marketing basically tees it up for sales, and maybe the buyer's so well informed and serious about a purchasing decision, they might just have a few questions to check the boxes. But it's that analogy of the point guard and the center, right? Marketing is the point guard, sales is the center. Marketing, tosses the center, a nice layup for sales to do a slam dunk, nice and easy, very quick, expend little resources and effort. The chances of that ball going in the hoop is very high. The chances of that ball being stolen very low. So totally get you there. Now, when you are interacting with sales, do you prefer a single seller that helps you with pre-sale and post-sale implementation, adoption, and success? Or do you prefer multiple sellers, maybe one seller to help you pre-sale, another seller to help you post-sale? And oftentimes there's different handoffs and subdivisions. Maybe you can talk us through your experience, and if you can, if you could choose between one or the other, and why it would be important for you one way or the other.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually think you stemmed this conversation between my wife and I. And I'll get to that part in a second, right? But I'm used to, right, one of two ways, right? A BDR, SDR, MDR, whatever you call this handoff, right? This almost defender of sales to some extent, right? This checker and verifier. And then going to an AE, and then going to a success rep, or onboarding and then success. Now, I can tell you, having onboarding separate from success is something that I really dislike. I think that should be one that should have always been one process. But also there's a full cycle AE that then goes to success. But I really feel, and again, you stemmed this conversation, and my wife was like, "What? Why would you do this any other way than having real full cycle, where someone is your first and your last and only contact, right? Unless you need something super technical, and then they can kind of orchestrate that and bring in folks that are experts to really support you, right? But other than that, right, that process, you should have one person really supporting you all the time. Like as during this conversation, I was like, it should be like an account concierge or something is what this thing should be, right? We should really be just one experience. Hey, like your best friend. Hey, Joe, this isn't working, right? Can you help me with this? Or what's going on with that, right? Just this easy transaction can be text all the time.
Yeah, imagine if, like, on the podcast right now, I just Batmaned it out of here and some other person took over for the podcast, and it was like a bait and switch, right? And so first of all, the fact that you and your wife are talking about this means that B2B is in serious trouble. We need to fix this. But to your point, it's that's the ideal, right? Is probably for a lot of buyers, and it sounds like you're one of them, where it's, why would I want multiple sellers when I can just have one? And if you think about that in your personal life, when you go to a store, or you go to your doctor, your lawyer, your barber, or dentist, so these are B2C examples, but even in B2B, it's like, why would you want the seller that helps you with the initial sale, makes you the promises, different from the seller that actually is responsible for implementation, adoption, customer success? And to your point, for the few things that are outside their expertise, or maybe they don't know, or they need a bit of technical help for, they can loop in other people internally and just act a bit as a project manager. So maybe if it's a very technical product and they need some help implementing it, then they loop in someone from product who can just help customize the product, because that's what the product team does, and the product team should be interacting with buyers to some extent. Or maybe
to a large extent, I like to say.
Yeah, they should, right? And product teams right? So, or they could loop in maybe another seller that has a bit more expertise in a certain area, and that's like an occasional thing, or maybe they loop in the CEO sometimes, like bring in the heavy artillery to like, woo the buyer and say, hey, I'm bringing the CEO in. The CEO can be more flexible about stuff, particularly if it's like a really big deal or something. So there's it's not to say that the only person that the buyer ever speaks to is just one person, but that one person is the quarterback, is helping the project manage things. And then in addition to that, you can have like customer support. So to help the end users, right, to deal with troubleshooting problems, which is separate from sales, right? Customer service is different from sales. And so now with that, let's wrap up your sales preferences, asking about your preference for sellers that are commission versus paid a full salary plus bonus, like a marketer, like a person in operations, like someone in HR. So if you were to know in advance, let's say on the website, that the sales team is not commissioned, their paycheck doesn't depend on your decision to buy, that they're being paid fully by their employer, how does that influence you? Do you have a preference? Like how would that affect you? How does that affect your experience so far, knowing that your sellers have been commissioned probably? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, right? I think when you know that somebody isn't on commission, I think just flat out you trust them more, right? That you don't think that they're going to be pointing you to a specific solution, or getting you to this higher price plan because they get paid better on it, right? That they're more so than a commissioned sales rep are going to have your best interests at heart, right? And really feel like they are that friend that's providing you value and going to support you in making the right decision.
Right on. And it's not to say that the seller is at fault here. It's just the incentive by their sales leader can likely incentivize a seller to pressure sell, or to make a poor sale and give the buyer the wrong product, or try to jack up the price. And the buyer can sense that, and the buyer comes to the table wary of that, and is on their guard, and is not conducive to kicking things off that way. And so it probably harms the win rate, probably harms the sales cycle. It probably harms how much they actually purchase, because they're like, I don't want to buy too much because, maybe you're over promising and going to under deliver or something like that.
I think you brought up a great point there about pricing, right? Overpricing, right? There's always this, right, especially when prices aren't on the website, right? There's always this feeling that, right, somebody's charging high so they can try to discount down, right? And then you're stuck trying to figure out, where is that balance, right? What is that number? So what if there was full transparency, right? What if there was all of these AEs were paid a salary, so they don't feel like, if I don't get this person to this plan, I'm not going to eat this month, right? It's a bad incentive, knowing that if somebody doesn't take, if you don't push somebody up, right, it's going to be a detriment to you, right? And that's any human, right? Like if we're put in that situation, right, you're going to try to make sure that you can eat, right?
Right, and that's really the whole purpose about quoting commission, and why sales is the only department to have quoting commission, is to pressure sell the buyer. And part of that is like, and one of the reasons why pricing is not transparent on the website is that given the 1980s sales led model, they're trying to just force buyers into sales, and sales can maybe overcharge them and try to get a higher margin. And then sales might get a higher, because half of their paycheck is being withheld, then they're going to try and charge as much as they can, because that means that their compensation is tied to that. So that at the outset for a buyer is very suspicious, because not transparent pricing, and that your salesperson might be trying to charge more just to get their paycheck, is an awful buying experience. And you go to like a restaurant, right? And there's no pricing on the menu, or you go, how does that make you feel when there's no pricing? Your immediate sense is someone is trying to put something over me. And that's really terrible. So if companies just paid their sellers properly with a full salary plus bonus, like every other employee, and then advertise that on the website, first of all, put your pricing on the website, and then advertise it on the website for buyers who do need sales help, that sales is non-commissioned and is paid a full salary plus bonus. That's going to be a much better competitive advantage for you and for buyers to be like, that's going to be a nice sales experience. I'm going to go there. And also you'll attract and motivate and retain sellers. So
exactly.
Now,
yeah, I was just going to say that. Sorry. Look at the other side of that coin, right? We talked about how the buyer is impacted, right? But imagine that, right? For many of the sellers, that how that feels, right? That experience of knowing that you have to do that, right? We're as I said earlier, right? We're humans, right? We have morals and integrity, and so that doesn't make us feel good when we're put in a situation to do things that we know aren't right for the other person.
Yeah, and a lot of sellers do the right thing despite the incentives set out by them by their sales leaders. And so with that, maybe we can take off your flip-flops and put on your marketing hat, and maybe you can talk us through your ideal marketing and sales model, or you can focus more on marketing if you want, and sort of the general principles that you abide by, and if you had a magic wand, just how you think B2B marketing and sales ought to be done. And maybe some things that aren't being done today but should, or some things that are being done today but shouldn't. So it could be like do's and don'ts. So go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to unpack there, but I think the ideal scenario, right? I think we talked about part of it from the sales side, right? And just making that full cycle, right? And really supporting somebody and walking them through the journey. But moving that back to the marketing side, I think it's really important for us to educate, to provide value beyond, right, somebody downloading an asset and us throwing 700 of those or thousands of those a month to a BDR team to cold call, right? So for us, we've started this notion of creating conversations versus lead generation, and right. So we call it demand generation, but we want to take that term because that's getting kind of muddied as well, and we're really trying to create conversations. So we only want to progress folks to a conversation with our sales team that ask to have a conversation. And in some form or fashion, and in our intent pyramid, we kind of look at that in two different pieces, and we look at purchase intent, right? Somebody that's booking a demo or a pricing request, they're probably more likely to want to have a conversation with you. Or right, they're probably ready or somewhat ready to make a purchase if they're asking there. But a level down from that is conversational intent, right? Somebody that wants to have a conversation with you, but probably isn't ready to purchase yet. So that's kind of that experience, and in that conversation is where we really see shifting BDRs and doing outbound and doing this lead gen format. We're pulling them into this experience of some form of education. So following on its showcases where we show someone what their branding would look like within our platform, right? So we give them that customized experience, and without this being a, hey, are you ready to buy? Hey, do you want to book a demo now? Do you want to talk to an AE? Right? We're building this experience and showing them value and showing how they can, but not only how they can strive to be better with our platform, but how they could do that outside of the platform as well. So we're just really trying to educate and support the market.
Right on. So, Brian has focused marketing on generating real leads or website demo requests, buyers that explicitly request to speak to sales, as opposed to trying to spam buyers to speak to sales. And focus marketing on doing proper non-spam marketing to help buyers become aware of, learn, try, and buy the product, and or speak to sales to the extent they need sales' help. And so, he used the term having conversations, and what proper non-spam marketing is a sense like you're educating, you're informing, you're charming, and you're wooing. You're not annoying someone and intruding on someone's spam, and you're not bugging them to go speak to sales. And so that's a very different buying experience. And so on that note, Brian, so a lot of companies are coming to the same realization that you're talking about. And the way that they arrived at that realization is that they're comparing sales development to marketing. They are analyzing their marketing funnel or splitting their marketing funnel and analyzing the efficacy of certain leads for sales split by lead source. And so they're comparing marketing's website demo requests versus sales development's leads from telemarketing, email spam, and LinkedIn spam. And they're looking at things like qualified pipeline, revenue, number of customers, ACV, win rate, sales cycle, cost per acquisition payback period, all those real marketing metrics. And they're realizing which side of their bread is buttered on. And they also know that there's a lot of things that they just know that is not good about spam that don't necessarily reflect into those quantitative metrics, but that harm your reputation and your word of mouth, turn off buyers, and that you've got basically two different marketing approaches at the same company competing for resources, and one is counteracting the other and crowding out the other. And so they're making that analysis and comparison, and then they're reinvesting resources. They're repurposing sales development to marketing. So sales development is a marketing function to generate leads. And so they're just saying, hey, instead of spamming people, why don't you help with real marketing? Do content, do social, do the website, do partner marketing, do product marketing, do creative or video. And there's just so much stuff that goes on in marketing that sales development could help out with. And so have you done this analysis? If so, what did you see? And then what did you do? How did you repurpose sales development if you did this? And if you haven't done it, do you intend on doing it, or do you know of other people who have done it, and what happened with them?
Yeah, so I love your questions, super insightful, and really bring it out of you. All right, I think that well, one, I want to say, right, not only are with this outbound process, not only are they fighting for resources, they're fighting for credit, right, and which just creates this bad experience, animosity internally as well, right? So it's just negative on negative, and we've done comparisons, and I won't speak to any of those current, right? But there is no comparison of outbound and inbound resources. If you're talking about volume, if you're talking about cost per, right, no matter how you slice this coin, there is no comparison. Hands down, and generally, you're probably talking 20 to 50x better in marketing. And that's probably low. But for us, so right, we haven't quite made that shift yet, but it's something that we're working on. But we're starting with this model from the inbound BDR team of converting them into having these conversations for what we call showcases, right? Something that is a conversation, but isn't a sales motion conversation, right? So we're showing this experience and supporting folks, and as we continue to prove this change, which 3 quarters running now, it's proven to accelerate the content offer lead conversion from MQL to opportunity from sub 3% to in this process of us not being a selling motion to 18% MQL to opportunity. So huge jump and leap for us there, but still, right, the folks that still come in for a purchase intent, right, demo request still performed much higher.
Wow, and there you go. And you take an experimental approach where you gradually repurpose, and then you track the results over time. You're showing the improvement, and then that allows you to double down and continue to do better marketing or good marketing, as opposed and decreasing your bad marketing. And one of the ways that you can also do this is not just with quantitative data, just say, hey, look, it's also qualitative. And so the same questions I just asked Brian earlier about his buying preferences, are the same question you should ask your customers, the ones that bought from you. How did they hear about you? How do they like to learn? And how did they do that with your company? And then what you're going to hear is, it was your marketing, not your sales development. And the sales development probably detracted from that or was unnecessary to that. And oftentimes what you have in a company, because there's a mixture of marketing, sales development, is that marketing will be doing all these things to charm and educate and woo buyers. And then before marketing can finish their job and buyers request a demo, sales development will preempt marketing and spam buyers that would have come in anyway when they were ready. But when they spam buyers, sales development will turn off some of them and then push some of them prematurely to sales. And so that'll mean sales gets less good leads, or marketing gets, or there's less free trial activations, or there's less buy now on the website. But yeah, to the extent that sales has premature buyers, that's bad news for sales. And it's bad news for marketing too, because marketing should be held accountable to the efficacy of those leads all the way through revenue and profit and all those metrics. So I think it's really good to hear that you're making that progress, as well as many other forward-thinking marketers are doing. And that will enable you to do more productive and fulfilling marketing that actually achieves the outcomes you set out to do. So maybe you can inspire marketers a little bit. And a lot of marketers are frustrated because they are in a bit of a straitjacket at some companies who are running the 1980s growth-led model as opposed to the 2022 marketing-led model. And what advice do you have for marketers to overcome this challenge and sort of do some of the stuff that you're doing? Any tips for them to sort of liberate themselves and modernize and help move things in a better direction?
Yeah, I don't know if you should take my advice here. No, I'm kidding. But part of that was us. I think the most important thing is working towards getting buy-in on what are right. At least having a conversation of what's working, what isn't working, quantitatively, right? Because depending on where you are, and especially if you're in a 1980s right sales org, you're not going to get qualitative buy-in immediately, right? At least in my experience, you're not going to get that first. You really have to come to them with data and put the numbers side by side, and then begin experimenting and do this as a start to make this shift as a side aspect, right? We're doing this and this, and then really start to show the growth. But in that situation where folks are stuck in this way and don't want to move forward, again, unfortunately, you have to show them with data. So you have to slowly make that transition.
Yeah, and then if they don't bite, then leave and take your talent elsewhere for a better return, right? So don't.
I didn't want to say that, but
yeah,
you're right.
No, it's good. No, you should, right? It's like ultimately we're not slaves, and we shouldn't endure a less productive and fulfilling career than we otherwise could. And so ultimately, if marketers don't put up with bad stuff, then the employers and CEOs are going to have to compete for top talent. And so they're going to want to say like, hey, marketers, we want the top marketers to help our company grow. So we're willing to pay top dollar and give you the freedom that you want and deserve to do marketing, and we'll get out of your way. And we won't put you in a outdated growth-led model from the 1980s. You can do modern, proper marketing, which is what buyers want. But today, marketing, not sales, is responsible for influencing most of the buyer's decision to purchase. Sales today is a support function to marketing. Sales can and probably should report to marketing, and sales is more about post-sale fulfillment than it is pre-sale evaluation. So marketing has a bigger seat at the table. Exercise it, and you've got the whole business case for that. So don't it's like the lion in the room, but if the lion is like from the the Wizard of Oz. It's like, you know, it's a paper tiger, maybe, I guess you can say. So maybe with that, Brian, maybe you can share with the audience, you know, what you're up to these days, how people can find you, who you help, how you help them.
Yeah, so you can find me primarily on LinkedIn at Mr. B Cohen, and so super easy to find Brian Cohen. And what I'm doing these days is I'm still I have shifted and transitioned away from my full-time role at Folion to become a consultant for them and look at additional consulting opportunities for demand gen, because this story that I've been able to tell and transition at a couple of companies now, one leading to acquisition, and now at Folion, I feel as Nelson does, we need this transition. We need to start making these changes, and I want to be able to share that with more folks and make more companies profitable. So I'm doing that, and then doing some side projects as far as starting my own SaaS companies in relation to how we better support the marketing audience as a whole. So
that's awesome. And I think for a lot of companies that want to liberate and modernize, they're going to be looking towards consultants, because a lot of consultants, first of all, the reason they go into consultancy is because they've got expertise and efficacy, and they want to do things their way, and their way is oftentimes better than whatever is being done in-house at a company, because that's why they're like, you know what, I don't want to work in-house in this old model. I want to do things properly with companies that are aligned with me, and are the reason that they want to work with me is because they trust me to do things properly. And a consultant can come in and be separate from the political machinations within a company and just make the tough decisions and make the tough calls, because they can be the person to blame because they're the outsider and who's willing to say and do what is necessary to actually help that company grow, as opposed to trying to save face or play politics internally. And so maybe you can help people understand what types of companies you help, company sizes or ACV sizes, or maybe is there a particular sweet spot for you?
Yeah, the bulk of my experience is really in this 10 to 50 million range, ARR, and the ACVs range between 25 and 100. So kind of a wide range there, but this experience, right? In getting these transitions and really getting companies up and that kind of have our level set, have product market fit, right, and are looking to accelerate. I think that's where my skill set supports those folks the most.
Right on. So if you're looking to scale, once you got product market fit and revenue, and you know, you got $25,000 to $100,000, let's say ACV, that's a good sweet spot for Brian. If you're just looking, if you just have an idea in your head and you've got 3 million in debt, like most college kids today, then probably not a good fit for you. So Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your buying preferences and your tips for B2B marketing and sales to help people move to a more modern marketing-led vision for more productive and fulfilling careers. And with that, buyer-centric revenue model over and out.
Thanks, Nelson. Appreciate it.